Live.
Hey, hi, Scotty.
Welcome back. Welcome back stateside, as they say.
Yes, I am back stateside, unfortunately, but it's all good. No, it's good to be back.
Yeah, I think you were gone for quite some time, but you managed to do your job remotely for the majority of it, which is pretty awesome. So I suspect there'll be more of that to come in your future.
I hope so. It was fun. And honestly, like that is the biggest thing this pandemic could have brought to the world is virtual work and just being able to travel and spend time. And hey, we're able to do it and be productive and successful. So more of it.
No
Huge
doubt.
advocate for it.
Yeah, I'll share with our audience, assuming we have anybody watching us yet, because the notification just went out on LinkedIn. But I'll share that you were working remotely from Peru, but you did take the last week and you tried to have a vacation, and I actually was the one who bugged you on it. So I sent you a text message about business after an email and was like, I am so sorry. Like,
it's true, guys. I have proof. He's not making it up. He's like, I am that dude bugging you on PTO.
But to your point, you were able to work miracles while you were out. So thank you again. All right. So for those of you watching, thank you again for joining. I've got Kelly Sanchez, the head of talent acquisition from Digicert on. She's my biweekly conversation partner, though we've had a little different cadence these days. And I think we'll probably get back to that here shortly. Again, I am Scotty John. You're here on my LinkedIn if you're watching, so you know that already. But appreciate you being here. Today, Kelly and I are going to talk about the do's and don'ts. Actually, we're going to go in reverse order. We're going to talk about the don'ts and do's of LinkedIn. So this one is a little ad hoc for us. We didn't plan ahead a ton because we have a lot of strong opinions about this. So should be interesting because we're going to be coming up with ideas in real time. We got plenty. We were talking before we went live, obviously. Yeah. We've got plenty of material, so to speak. If you have questions or comments for Kelly and I, feel free to pop them into the comment section under the live here. Kelly, per usual, I've got to go navigate to that page so that I can try to keep an eye on any comments and or questions that come up as we do this. So I know you always have a good icebreaker for us to start. I'll be multitasking my way through you asking that questions. So I'll be right back.
Sounds good. All right. Hi, everyone. So we're going to start with the icebreaker question for today. What is your favorite experience up to this year? So for me, I would say just barely being able to go to Peru and visit family. I haven't been able to visit them since pre-pandemic. So it was great to go out there, hang out, spend some time, and actually be able to work. Like Scotty mentioned, I was out there for a couple of weeks working virtually, and then I took the last week off. If you know me, I love to travel. So we were able to go to northern Peru and just explore these beautiful beaches for the whole week. And yes, so I'm tan, I'm already peeling. But it was a great break for me to go over there and spend their end of summer and then miss all of our winter, because I think the first week I was out there, it was a huge snowstorm out here. So very happy I wasn't part of that. But I know, Scotty, that was probably your dream. And I'm sure you hit the slopes in the back country for that.
Yeah, that one, I won't say that's been my favorite experience of the year thus far. But it was probably pretty close because, to your point, I did get out and enjoy the snow. You and I are polar opposites when it comes to that. That's great, though. I think that, again, super cool. Like we talked about as we started the live here. What a cool thing, right? To be able to work remotely from another country, enjoy your weekends and evenings, and then a week at the end of that period of time. But you were out there for several weeks, so super cool. So for me, probably, it's funny. This is a cop out answer, but I feel like, well, so the best thing that I've done thus far this year, was a relatively ordinary, if you will, experience. And it was super cool though. Like my kids are getting out on skis. We live up in the mountains, so that's something we value and spend time doing. And my 2-year-old, watching him kind of ski, learn to ski without any help has been phenomenal. And it's weird. Like 2-year-old is early, and he is, I don't know. I think he wants to follow his brother around. So that happened just a couple weeks ago. That was super fun and cool. I'd say that'd be the answer. Up to this point in time. My cop-out answer is because it hasn't happened yet, but Kelly, we got record-breaking temperatures here in Utah right now. I cannot wait to cut all my hair off, and that's coming. For me, I think that's going to be one of the best experiences. The COVID haircut. People ask me, "Oh, you grew your hair out," and it's no, I just didn't get a haircut. There's a difference. So, I've got 11 inches in the back here. I got to get to 12 inches, and then I can donate it to wigs for kids. So that is coming.
Yeah, that was going to be my question if you were going to donate. So I love it.
Yeah, I got long enough, during the height of the lockdowns where I was just like, all right, I'm going to commit and do it. And I finally found a place I think will be good to donate to. So anyhow, thanks for stalling and buying some time for me. Like I mentioned, appreciate you. Like I mentioned, we are talking today about LinkedIn, all about LinkedIn, which is fitting since we're live here on LinkedIn. I've got Kelly Sanchez, head of talent acquisition over at DigiCert. And we're basically going to cover just some general rules, right? Some don'ts, and also some things we think people should do more of to maximize, your effectiveness on this platform. There's a number of ways, obviously, to use LinkedIn. For you and I, Kelly, as recruiters, we probably spend more time on here than we care to admit. But regardless of what you do as a professional, for the most part, this is a platform that can be helpful, but it can also hurt. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Let's start with the don'ts. Kelly, we talked before we went live. We got a lot of ideas here. What's your biggest don't on this platform? Like, what should people absolutely not do on this platform?
You're just giving me one. I don't know if I can just pick one. But just to go off of what you mentioned, like LinkedIn has been around for years. Yes, it was mainly like a social, like professional, like networking tool. Like only professionals are on there, only looking for jobs, but it has evolved now to so much more. But I would say the don't that comes to my mind, and again, it's because we're in it all day, every day, is when reaching out, messaging, cold messages. We all don't love them. I'm sorry, we don't. And we get bombarded all the time. But how do you stand out and how do you make it relevant? You have to fact check yourself. So if you are going to reach out to someone, make sure that you're looking at their profile, which is great. That's going to be something that we talk about as a do, but as a don't just write something out and it's completely off. That individual is going to be like, what the hell? Did you even look at my profile? What's going on? That's a complete no. Like, don't do that. So make sure that you have your information accurate, fact check yourself before you're sending that out.
Yeah. To be clear, you're not saying don't reach out. You're not saying don't do a cold outreach. You're saying
absolutely do. Yes, do it, but do it with accurate information.
Indeed. Yeah. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with that. It's, cold outreach, cold calls, cold emails, cold LinkedIn messages. you really you're going to get a whole lot better return if you take a little bit of time. And to your point, just, speak to something that stands out on the individual's profile that you're reaching out to. And again, we'll get into some more detail about what that needs to look like when we get to the do section. What else, Kelly? I mean, I have lots of ideas, but I'll cover. I'm sure you've got better ones. So let's continue down with other don'ts of LinkedIn before we get to my ideas here.
Yeah, I would say the other don't that comes to mind is actually have a profile picture. So if you do not have one, get one on there. We want to make sure that you're a person, that you're not a robot. So definitely include a photo and make sure your profile is updated as well and relevant too, especially if someone comes and looks at your profile and you have a job from 5 years ago, but you've changed and you're completely different now. Like, it'll be hard for us to really look at your skill set and experience. So make it relevant and current.
So as the leader, coach, and mentor that you are, you cannot help but offer the do's.
I know, I caught myself.
And that's totally cool. Again, we'll get into that here real quick. Just want to pause to say, if you have any questions at all about what to do or what not to do here on LinkedIn, this is general information about your profile, about how to interact with other individuals on this platform, about perhaps how to go live. I don't know if anybody wants to give me some don'ts or do's on that front. Please do. Would love the feedback there, but any questions at all for Kelly and I about this topic, or for that matter, anything recruiting related, feel free to pop them into the comments section. All right, I got a don't here, Kelly, that I think you'll appreciate and agree with. And I'm going to give some credit if, the individual who actually brought this idea to mind for me has joined our lives in the past. So if you're watching, you know who you are. Thank you for the great idea. But one of the biggest don'ts, I think, right now would be, we talk as recruiters about, and a lot of job coaches or career coaches here on LinkedIn talk about the importance of posting content, quote unquote, on LinkedIn, right? Actually creating your own posts. And I think that there's absolutely something to that. But one thing that I've noticed a little bit more lately is posts that are essentially rants about recruiters or hiring managers or companies that, you've had a bad experience with. And I mean, granted, we've all had bad experiences with all of those individuals, right? But I just don't know that LinkedIn, putting it out onto the public platform that is LinkedIn, is the best forum for that. So avoid rants. If you need to rant, if you need to vent, find yourself a trusted partner and have a conversation, preferably via phone or in person. So there's not like a forever paper trail of you like bagging on whomever it might be. Because here's the thing, as a recruiter, when I see somebody's background on LinkedIn and I look at their activity and what they've posted, if I see that you've basically just gone off about how all recruiters are the worst, it's make me a little less likely to want to work with you, right? So there's a bunch of other posts, that you should probably not write on here on this platform. And, I don't want to get into all of those. Any other ideas, Kelly, with regard to like, what should you not be posting here on this platform?
Yeah. Well, now that you say that, that definitely like, this bulb of like X, don't do that or don't do this, like negative talk, any like belittling of other people. Like, yes, everyone has their views, but here we're at the end of the day, we're on LinkedIn. We're here to socialize. We're here to network and grow and really help support each other, not really bring each other down, is my perspective on it. So that's the only thing that I would add to your ranting, and don't add additional comments and continue the chain on of the negative energy that's going to happen.
Indeed. Yeah. There's a fine line between sometimes there's something that might be a little bit controversial, might be contrarian opinion that you hold that's not kind of conventional wisdom or kind of runs against common knowledge, whatever, not common knowledge, but just the narrative of what you see a lot of other people putting out into the world. And I think there's some reward that comes with the risk of maybe posting something that's a little bit controversial, but that's the tough part. There's a fine line. You can really derail your career and hurt your reputation with a post that, is just completely a terrible take. And again, that's tough, but maybe on that front, when we get into the do's, we can talk about how to avoid some of that stuff. Because I've got some thoughts as somebody who has posted stuff in the past, as somebody who posts here on LinkedIn, of ways to, just safeguard against that in the future. Any other don'ts with regard to LinkedIn, Kelly? I feel like there are a lot of do's that we'll get into, but are there any other don'ts that come to mind for you?
No, I think those are the ones that are the major ones that come to mind.
Cool. All right. So again, for those of you who are just joining, thank you so much for joining. I have Kelly Sanchez, head of talent acquisition at DigiCert. She and I do this bi-weekly. And today we've got a topic focused on LinkedIn and how to use this platform. Of course, simply our opinions, but if you have any questions about what we're talking about today, or anything recruiting related, feel free to pop them into the comment section. I am keeping up on that as we go here. We're going to start talking about what to do on LinkedIn if you want to utilize this platform, effectively. And again, you could call us experts. Maybe I'd say we have experience. Let's put it that way, because as recruiters, we spend a ton of time here on this platform. And so, we use it, and to some good effect, I would say. So Kelly, what are you already talked a little bit about them earlier, but you want to revisit some of the do's of, an effective LinkedIn presence, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I had shared was your profile. So the don't was don't have an image, but definitely upload an image, a current image, a headshot. It could be fun. It can be creative, but something that's maybe you up in the mountain far away. We can't really tell who you are. Like, it's great. It gives you exposure of that. You love the outdoors, but we're not seeing you physically who you are as a person. So again, this LinkedIn is an extension of who you are. It's kind of your brand. So we would love to see your face on that. The other thing, in addition to that, with your profile is just relevant experience. I had given the example like, hey, you probably have a new job. Make sure you add that on there. Don't have your job of 5 years ago as your most current position, because that's not accurate. So that's, just going back to what I had shared.
Cool. Yeah. To your point. So with regard to the photo, obviously I agree, being able to see your face clearly, and having, a relatively recent photo, if it's 15 years old, or if something has changed about you, in the last little bit, it's probably, to be fair, you look at my photo, it does not have 11-inch hair. So there's that. But with regard to like trying to have a little insight into who you are and what you're into, you'd mentioned like, oh, it's great to have a picture of you up on the banner behind your profile photo. You can highlight, a little more about your personality there. And that's what I've done. To your point, it's exactly what it is. It's a photo that we took on a ski tour. So there's an opportunity for the banner photo to be, highlighting a little bit more about whatever you want to highlight about yourself, to anyone who's going to visit your profile. A couple of other do's for me that come to mind. So one is, make sure that your summary, really sells who you are as a professional. So we should probably back up and say LinkedIn is going to be used differently depending on what you do. If you're a salesperson, the summary should talk about the results you've achieved for other similar target audiences, right? If you're a recruiter, it should talk about, what your focus is and how you can help candidates, right? The other thing to mention is that summary right underneath your picture. You could have your title there, but I also think that explaining very succinctly, like what you do as a professional is super useful there. So that's with regard to the profile itself. You'd already mentioned having it be up to date. The other thing I'll say for those of you out there who do not want to be recruited, and I would argue that, everybody should at least chat to a recruiter. You never know, right? But if you're like adamant, I'm in my dream job, I don't want you to bug me. I don't want to be inundated with notes about jobs that I'm not interested in because I'm not interested in looking right now. Put that in your summary. Just put at the very top of your summary, I would say probably try to be polite about it, but I've seen that a lot more lately. And I think that's great. Mentioning specifically, I'm super happy where I am. I'm not on the job market. Probably will cut down on at least some of the unwanted outreach that you're going to get if you don't have that. How about when it comes to how you show up on LinkedIn, Kelly, whether it's direct messages to people, invitations to connect, or like we talked about earlier, posts, are there some specific kind of guidelines on what to do there that you'd recommend?
The guideline for me is really be yourself. Like, don't try to be too polished or too one way or another way, or try to cater who it is. Obviously, to what you're saying, Scotty, let's be professional, let's respect each other. But, you can tell someone's personality through a message. Use that. When you're posting, post about things that you're passionate about and things that are about the company, show interest. Again, I know that LinkedIn started as more of a professional, hey, I'm only looking for work, so I'm only going to connect with businesses, but now it's evolved. And again, even with work, we're understanding the individual for more than just who they are at work. We're understanding their personal life and their hobbies and interests. That's how LinkedIn is now. So I definitely think it's opportunity to showcase a little bit more of who you are. But I would say be mindful of what you are sharing. You know what I mean? And keep it, again, professional.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, there's still some topics that are a little challenging to kind of talk about, so to speak, in a professional setting, for better or worse. So some of the conventional wisdom around that, I'd say, is probably worth paying attention to. So I would also, I love what you just said, by the way. I think to your point, we use that as recruiters to get to know people a little bit better. And it's awesome to be able to do that. So like you said, making sure you are yourself, I think is awesome. How do you feel about, this is just curiosity, how do you feel about people's like profiles being written in a third person? For it, against it, no opinion?
I really haven't come across very many recently, third person. So I have no opinion on it, but I would think it, again, it's an extension of you. So I would come from me, my perspective. So no.
Sure. Yep. Figured you'd say that. I feel the same way. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's, maybe a time and a place for a third person profile, but generally it's it's an opportunity. Your summary is an opportunity to introduce people to who you are. So take that opportunity, and it's hard to do that when you're referring to yourself in third person. Anyway, okay. So a couple of other things I think that are like to-dos on LinkedIn if you want to be successful when it comes to outreach. You talked about it in the don'ts section, but cold messages, whether it's LinkedIn, email, phone calls, or any other number of platforms out there. We don't have to get into all of them. They're still effective sales tools. They're still effective recruiting tools. really, I mean, we're all here to do business, and business often comes from people that you don't know today, right? So a couple of recommendations on how to show up on LinkedIn. One is, I think that, especially for recruiters, starting with an invitation to connect before you start a message history, rather than starting with an email, is something to think about. I'm not necessarily saying that it's better. I'm just saying that it tends, for me personally, to be more effective these days than InMail. Closing the loop on messaging. So if you reach out to somebody and they reach back, and basically politely tell you, no, thanks, I'm not interested, I think closing the loop and maybe trying to set a time frame on a follow-up is a good best practice. When you just disappear because you're not going to help me right now, the challenge there is the next time you reach out to that person, the last message they see is their message back to you and you not responding at all. So we don't all have good memories. I certainly don't have the best memory, but when it's in writing, like in the message history, like that's, I mean, any of us can see like, okay, this person's really just kind of being more transactional. It didn't work to build a relationship, because generally speaking, we know, and both in recruiting and in sales, which I think is the majority of outreach that you're going to get on LinkedIn, right? It's about relationships. It's not just about what can you do for me today. So close the loop. It's super simple, right? To just thank somebody for the response and say, appreciate that now's not the right time. Maybe I'll follow back up, in 6 months or whatever you want to say, right? Any other best practices around messaging?
Well, that did spark an idea of someone who's maybe new to LinkedIn and want to grow their network. So definitely, like, anytime you meet someone, and I think this goes for anyone, but just especially for someone starting in LinkedIn, is ask them to, hey, can I connect with you? Like, hey, we had a great meeting, or hey, I met you here at this networking event. Can I connect with you on LinkedIn? And to your point, it's, hey, nice. When you said invite, I'm just going to send them an invite is what sparked it. It's like, hey, it's me. We met at this event. Would like to stay connected. And then you're slowly growing your network. And who knows, maybe there's something in the future that you guys can collaborate with or connect and help each other on. So that would be the other do of LinkedIn, is can make sure you're connecting with the people quickly after you meet them.
So it's funny because I thought of another don't, and that's what we knew this would happen. We could probably be on this LinkedIn Live today for, a full hour if we aren't careful, because we'll keep thinking of new things. Before I get into the don't that I forgot about earlier, just want to mention again, for those of you just joining, thank you so much for joining. Today, Kelly Sanchez, head of talent acquisition at DigiCert, and I are speaking about the do's and don'ts of LinkedIn, how best to utilize this platform, or at least some high level ideas. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. We're going to be wrapping this meeting up here pretty quick. So if you do have a question, now's the time.
Yeah. And we can do a second round of do's and don'ts of LinkedIn. Like you said, it's a lot. There's a lot of things that we can definitely discuss on and do deeper dives into.
Absolutely. To that point, I know we've made this, we've put this invitation out in the past, but if you have questions that you don't feel like, putting out on the comment section here, or ideas about, what we could cover that we didn't cover, et cetera, want to give Kelly a bunch of compliments or tell me all the things I could do differently, feel free to send us an invitation to connect first, and then a direct message with that stuff. So, okay. So here's a don't that we didn't discuss that I just thought of as it relates to messaging. Yeah. I feel like a big time don't right now these days, unless you've cheated up and have asked for permission, don't send a resume. Or for that matter, probably a white paper or one pager or whatever, anything that's essentially creating work for the person on the other end. Because a lot of times, and this relates to what you and I do, obviously, but a lot of times when a candidate sends a resume, I think in their mind it's, hey, you don't know anything about me. This is this is how you'll get to know me. But what you're not thinking about is that's a minimum of 5, probably more like 10 or even 15 minutes of time that you're asking for. Mm-hmm. So I'd highly recommend that you have a conversation. And if they offer to take a look at your resume, or you get to a place where you can ask them if they would, don't do it before then. Because again, all that really is asking somebody to take time to do work that they may or may not have time to do. What are your thoughts on that, Kelly? Agree, disagree?
I see where you're coming from, but I'm thinking of a scenario because the candidate's being proactive. I would hope, in the scenario in my head is like they've applied online and now they're reaching out to the recruiter like, hey, I applied for marketing position. Here's my resume too. So they're doing their due diligence. But correct me if I'm wrong. You're just talking about like, hey, here's my resume. What can I do? Like, help me.
I love that we disagree. We never we haven't disagreed in a long time. Let's disagree here. Yeah, no, I mean exactly what you just said. Like, you applied online to the job. Don't send me your resume. I don't want to see your resume. You can refer to the fact that you respect the process and you applied online and you just wanted to follow up on your application to see if there was any updates. Totally understandable. But yeah, if you send me your resume after you have already applied online, especially, I'm like, dude, like, I don't have, so I don't know. I mean, I also see where you're coming from, and I'm maybe playing devil's advocate a little on your point, but yeah, I would say there's like very few circumstances where I'm going to be happy unless I've asked for it to see somebody's resume. Right. So.
Okay. Cool. I like
Agree
it.
to disagree. All right.
Yeah. Okay, and we're done. Just kidding.
That's it. She's never coming back again.
No, this is great. There has to be more of agree or disagree moments. So
Indeed. All right. Well, I think we've only scratched the surface per usual in a half an hour meeting. Again, any last minute questions about how best to use LinkedIn, what not to do on LinkedIn from the, basically just the opinions of 2 experienced recruiters who've used it for like a decade. We got
nice.
We got a question. All right, here we go. Let me read this to you, Kelly, and then we can both field it. So, what is a good way for career coaches to get the attention of a recruiter for an applicant? Okay. So it sounds to me like this individual is actually saying that they would, as a career coach, want to like kind of take that task off of the applicant's plate. So let me repeat the question. What is a good way for career coaches to get the attention of a recruiter for an applicant? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I would like, what comes to my mind is reach out to the recruiter or to that person, whoever is in HR recruiting, and let them know what your intent is in giving them the background. Like, hey, I'm a career coach. I have so-and-so. Let me know, like, what's a good time to chat, like, be open. Don't just expect like, hey, this is what I need from you, but hey, let's connect. I want to be able to chat about this individual. What does that look like? But on the career coach side, though, I would also hold yourself accountable, make sure like, hey, this is a good fit for this individual, kind of to what Scotty's showing, like, don't create extra work for it. But I do think that it is important to, hey, you're helping them out. This is what I'm coming to do. And I'm just trying to connect. So yeah. I would be mindful of that and the timing.
Yeah. And, to your point, and I believe in all likelihood, the individual asking this question is themselves a career coach. I would probably say, okay, so her job is to find students entry-level IT positions. Okay, very cool. So my thoughts on this are probably more around helping train the students and empowering them to do the reach out. I mean, frankly, the fact that you're going above and beyond for these people is amazing. I think it's very admirable, but I don't know how sustainable it'll ultimately be. So my thought would be to help kind of set them up, offer a framework for them on how best to get the attention of recruiters. And on that note would be, we've talked about this on past LinkedIn lives, and I'll try to be as quick as I can here. But my recommendation is target the companies that they're interested in. They should be targeting those companies, and they should be sending invitations to connect with everybody in talent acquisition and HR, anybody that might be in a position to kind of get eyes on a resume. And the invitation to connect should be, simply, here's why I'm interested in your organization. Again, not sending a resume, not asking for something per se, just connecting and then building a virtual relationship over a few weeks. So engaging with the stuff that they're putting out there, et cetera, because that's over time, that would get our attention. If somebody engages with a post that I put on LinkedIn or a comment that I make in like a meaningful way, then that I notice it, right? And I think most of us do. So it's kind of a long game, but maybe as these students are kind of finishing up their senior year, starting to get out there, connect to the companies they're interested in proactively, that would be my best recommendation. And I would tell them that's probably something that they need to do. But if you can set them up with that framework, give them that training, et cetera, then that's a life skill they'll have for the rest of their career. Thoughts on that, Kelly?
Yeah, I agree. Definitely, you want to make sure that the students have that experience, but I can definitely appreciate the career coaches side. A recent example, I had a career coach from a university reach out to me directly as the head of talent acquisition, just in an email asking like, hey, are you the best person? Is there someone on your team? Because a lot of times companies have like a college recruiter specifically, or someone that runs the program. So that's also a good way to connect there and find that individual first, make the connection, set up an introduction meeting to see how you guys can really partner together on, hey, do we have internships? Who are your top students? And then you guys can kind of build from there. Not all, I'll be transparent, not all companies have that college recruiter, but there is also that, I would say, interest and engagement of, hey, we want to be able to help our college students, but what does that look like? That would be a good point as well.
Yeah, that's great feedback. To your point, I think building relationships with the kind of key people in the talent and or HR function, it takes time. But as a career coach or a career development facilitator, building those relationships at organizations, especially in and around your community, or ones that have a track record of hiring students. I think that would, then you can start to actually, do seminars or on-sites. There's a lot of different things you can do. You can have individuals from the organization come out and meet the students, et cetera. I think that's great advice as well. So great question. Thanks so much for asking it. Again, Kelly Sanchez, head of talent acquisition at DigiCert. Thanks so much for joining me. I always appreciate our conversations and the value that you bring to these. Thanks to those of you who are still on for being with us today. One last call out. If you have any questions, last minute questions here, feel free to pop them into the comments. Otherwise, we will wrap this and we'll be back again in 2 weeks. Yeah. 2 weeks, Wednesdays at around 11:30 Mountain Time is when we typically do these. So anything else, Kelly?
No, this was a great conversation. We'll see you in 2 weeks, everyone.
Cool. Thanks again. See you.